Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Happy Sad podcast. Woohoo! Woohoo! Today I'm with a very special guest. I've known this special guest since we were children. We met once at a Halloween party of our mutual best friend India, and this guest was dressed as a werewolf, and I was dressed as a devil.
On top form that day.
Yeah. And then we've kind of meandered in and out of each other's lives since then and kind of known of each other. And then in the last couple of years, we've gotten really, really close. Besties. So, yes, this is Miss Abi Silverthorne.
Hi, Miss Ella.
This is what Abby always calls me, Miss Ella. So I expect
Miss
a lot of Miss
Ella.
Ella today.
It's just in the vein of very demure, like, you
Very
know,
cute,
just Miss
very
Ella.
cute.
Everything you do is very Miss Ella did that.
It's
So
very Miss Ella.
Miss
So
Ella.
yes, so today, you might recognise Abby from the reel she made for us, talking about autism spectrum disorder. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to try and stay on topic, but knowing us,
We don't.
who knows what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
I wanted to start with something that I think is really important for this conversation, for me and for everyone else listening, and that is the vocab we use. So what you've been diagnosed with is autism spectrum disorder. That's what it's called, right? But
yeah.
Is it reductive to call it autism? Or is it just
No,
the same?
I was thinking about this, and I also want to preface it, I'm like by no means an expert.
No, let's preface this by saying Abby is not the grand high priestess of autism. She's
some would say, but
as much as we wish she was.
Not me.
Yeah. She is one person.
Yeah. And I feel like with any community, there's like discourse within, like, and chatter within, and it doesn't have to be a fixed thing. Like people can prefer it one way and then have more discussions and listen to other people and then prefer it another way later.
Absolutely.
So, but there are some, I think there is a couple ones that are like big, like I'm pretty confident those won't change. And because they have good reasoning, so I'll explain why. So the two absolute no-goes, I can't see that changing, is the functioning labels. So high functioning, low functioning, which is so prevalent still. So, you know, don't jump on people when they use it because it is really entrenched in that. But it just, I think it's because it's quite an external, like outsider looking in way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Because the whole problem and the whole, like, I guess the discussion you guys invited in with like Happy Sad Club is the mental health connection. If an example of where it doesn't work is where if someone is labelled as really high functioning because they externally do capitalism good, you know, like they clock into 9 to 5 and they had a wedding, and they spend money at the shop and they walk to the shop and they buy a house, like, and have mortgage. So it's like, oh, so high functioning, but they could be literally like no mental health, none, like riddled, and they could go home from work like a 9 to 5 in the office and lay flat on their back and not be able to do anything for the rest of the day. And you wouldn't really, because they've used up everything they've got. So you don't know what people are sacrificing. You don't know what they're losing in other areas of their life. You don't know what symptoms they're having because of what they're doing to mask and like present as functioning. And also it's not nice to call people low functioning as well, because I would argue, by whose fucking, can I swear?
Yeah, I think so.
Get it out if I can. Let's get that out the gate early. But by whose standard? That's how passionately I feel about it, Ella. Like by whose standard? Like, who are you to call someone low functioning because they don't communicate in the way they don't? It would be like calling someone low functioning because they don't speak your language.
Yeah.
It's like, but you don't speak their language. So where are we now? Like, neither of you are functioning together. Let's just say that. Like, you're not compatible functioning wise. That's okay to admit that. And it's okay to point out when it's like, oh, this person's autism symptoms or like the way they live their life with autism or the way they are autistic is like so does not function, or society doesn't function well with it.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not going to do like the paint by numbers job. Yeah. So it's just derivative. Let's just say that, too high-low. And then the only other thing is that some people still use Asperger's. If people use that for themselves, they might get diagnosed with that. It's written in my document. It's also, so even though it's autism spectrum disorder, they still put Asperger's in there as well.
Right.
And it kind of goes hand in hand because they like to call that the higher functioning one.
Right.
So we already irrelevant, but also Asperger's is named after a very not nice man who was experimenting on people, and like he was trying to like find out why they were like different neurologically, and he was doing it in concentration camps and things like that. So it's just like, why you don't want to be named after someone who would have chopped you up, and you don't want to keep that legacy. We're beyond. We don't need his name.
And are you someone that uses, because I know there is also discourse about this as well, are you someone that's okay, do you say I am an autistic person, or do you say I'm a person with autism?
I agree with however people prefer to do it, because I still see people actively using both. Until and also I'm never, in my real life, I would never call someone out if they're talking about themselves.
No.
So just however they describe themselves, I leave it, because also it's very emotional as well, I think, because it's like some people don't want to be defined by it, and some people do want to be defined by it. And I don't think we'll ever land on a right answer with that.
No.
Especially just with their life, like, and how it affects them. So, and some days you could be like, that ain't my problem, that's nothing to do with me. Like, and some days you're like, it touches everything, and nothing will ever be free of it. So it just depends how you feel on the day. I start to say with anxiety, or like, I wouldn't call myself that's, anxiety is not my personality trait, but also some days it does affect every single facet of my life. So
okay, no, that's really helpful, because I think people are so worried about getting things wrong, but sometimes it's just better to ask the question. And just be upfront and say, hey, I don't know if this is going to be offensive, this thing I might say. But that's really helpful. So was it you who first, like when the word autism was brought up, was it you that brought it up? Was it your parents? Was it a teacher? How did that start?
No, it was a funny old thing. There's it's a bit of a grey area. Like, I can think of a couple instances. So there's one there's one of each. So there's one when I thought of it myself but didn't tell anyone. So I didn't know what the people around me thought, and I was quite young, and it wasn't even actually like a like very formal thing. It was, which is why these days are good, by the way. It was like Autism Awareness Week or Day. I think I was in like year 8 or year 7 or something. And before I used to walk to school in the morning, I used to sit on the sofa, like, or at the bottom of the stairs, and like, read stuff or whatever was on the side. And there was some kind of article about that was on Facebook, because that's what I was scrolling at the time. And it listed all the traits, or it listed a few. It listed the main traits. And I was deep in like, and I'd never thought of it before at all. Like, I was just deep in typical teenage angst, and also just now what I know is like just riddled with various like just anxieties and sadness and stress and confusion and all this stuff. So I was like reading it, and then so I read traits, like a few stuck out to me, like the special interest and like the obsession and like the highs and lows and the struggles with interpersonal relationships, because I was in school, so it was very clear to me that like I was not managing social relationships like everyone else could. So a few of those stuck out to me, and then I burst into tears. Didn't even mean to do that. So it must have really resonated subconsciously or something. And then I just kind of went to school and I didn't think about it for the next few years.
Months later.
Because I was like, another morning, another cry. I was like, literally, like, go to school. No, I just didn't really think about it again. Because also, like, I'm from, like, a family and stuff that's very like wants it to be okay, which is a lovely, beautiful trait, but they're fixers, they're fixer-uppers and stuff. And only now, as we're all getting older as a family, like parents, children, everyone, we're coming into a really nice, graceful period where we just let things not be quite okay.
Yeah.
Or different, you know, like, but it was very like I didn't want to stress anyone out by saying there might be something that can't be fixed. Do you know what I mean? Even though it can be manageable, but it can't be fixed. Do you know what I mean? And then the other one was like when I was my uni had a therapist, like a counsellor on campus. And I was just so depressed. I was just a bit sad again. Like I was just very, very stressed and I wasn't coping. Let's just say that. Whatever falls on, just wasn't coping. So I was going to these counsellors and I was like, ugh. And in my head, I was doing it to be more efficient at my degree. I was like, not being efficient at my degree because I am sad and stuff like that and stressed and I don't understand it. And I don't understand some of the lectures and da-da-da-da. And I can't work, like, sometimes I work for 10 hours straight and then sometimes I can't. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I went to them just like, fix it. And they were like, And then they tried to like approach me like you would approach maybe a neurotypical person. And I shut down. I infamously got like just fired by one of them. She just gave me to another one because I wouldn't make eye contact. I was like, and she was like, hey, do you want to talk about that? And I'd be like, and just silent and stuff, like just silent, no eyes, no mouth. They were like, this is my two key things I need to work with. Use. So and then the second one I went to, I'd never forget, she had like a literal pile of papers on her side, which were like various like little mini diagnostic quizzes that you would do if you're just talking to someone. You can't diagnose them in that moment, but it's like, and she was listening to me and she was like, she scooted her chair back to them. She went,
oh no.
And she took out 2, and it was actually ADHD, that one, but she was like, just try that, and she started giving those to me. Yeah. So I'd say those are the 2 times that I was like.
And then, so how old were you when you went and you thought, I need a diagnosis? Like, or did
probably
you one?
I think I needed an answer, or I needed. I think like there's a lot of talk about like the prevalence of being diagnosed now with various things. I would say there's nothing wrong with someone wanting, if you're in the dark and you just need somewhere to put your hand to start, and then you can feel like the wall, like say you're in a maze or something in the dark, you can follow the wall to go. And I would say it's that wall, because otherwise you're just in complete darkness, to stretch the metaphor. You're in complete darkness and like very confused. You don't even know who you are, what's going on. It gives you something to like, okay, this is something that will keep happening. How do I fix it? Because do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. What was the question?
When did you like decide?
Oh yeah. So it was basically the fallout of uni. I didn't deal with uni ending well at all, because it was like the last bit of education is the structure, right? And then you're kind of left to find.
It's a massive change.
Just finding jobs and finding that bit that you'll do next. Like, I think we're all having it, you know, to some extent. Like, so I just didn't deal with that at all, because one thing that is nice for autism is structure and knowing where you are and knowing how everything relates to itself. I had that at uni. I'd built it up over 3 years and then it was gone quite quickly. So I had a terrible time. So I think it was probably that. And I had a few, like, lockdown also heightened it because I was in very close proximity with my parents. And by then I was an adult. I wasn't a teenager. I'd graduated. I had a degree, like everything. I had a job. Like when I was still working in the pandemic, which was such a privilege. Like, so I was working like part-time from home, and there was still just calamity. Do you know what I mean? Like I still was just absolutely at my wit's end, like so confused and upset by things and distraught by things that. And then me and Mum were like having moments where we were looking at each other across the hallway, and I was like on the floor, and she was looking at me like, what is wrong? Like she's like, we need to figure out what is wrong. So change. It was come to Jesus moment. I think I answered it.
Do you think your journey would have been different if you hadn't got that official diagnosis?
I would hope not. Because there's people out there who might never.
Yeah.
For financial or just they don't have anyone who's really going to take it seriously around them. So I would say you can cautiously and privately like sort it out within yourself. I think people should have permission to do that. And as long as you're not like then like dictating what anyone else does.
Yeah.
Or speaking on it in that way. So I don't think everyone who is diagnosed should speak on it in that way. Do you know, like so telling other people what to do. I mean,
it's very individual.
Very individual. But you can if you can come to a private resolution within yourself and like move forward that way, because there's lots of resources online and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I would hope that's what I did. I am quite extreme, so it just went quite an extreme way. It was all drama and like. And then a professional being like, stop. So, I don't know.
Do you think then in that instance, because I know there's a lot of online, everyone wants to debate the merit of self-diagnosing, and in some instances you shouldn't be doing it. That's just a fact. But in some instances, I guess, where you know yourself, you've read everything you can read, you know what you know how your brain works,
and you're responsible with it. And you're like, this is for me to help myself, like, and for no other reason than that. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, you know,
because I think then if you don't, like you said, have the finances, have the time, have the
and also, you know, like certain groups, like I don't have statistics or anything, but I have like read previously in things like that. It's like not everyone's getting the same chance to get diagnosed. And especially there's a really funny old thing going on with autism where it is different, maybe part genetically and part like how girls and boys are socialized. They're not the same. They don't present the same at all. So there's the classic thing of like they're looking at a girl like, well, she's not playing with trains. Or anything like that. She doesn't like maths. So I think she's fine. And I think she can go on her merry old way and nothing bad will happen.
Like, no therapy for her.
No therapy for her. So yeah, I think until everyone's got a fair chance to get, let's have the conversation about self-diagnosis when everyone's got a fair chance to get diagnosed. How about that? There we go.
Exactly. So obviously the Happy Sad Club is a space where we talk about mental health. And
by the way, I just want to say that you guys are so cool for doing this, and you and Blake and everyone like are just doing such a good job. And it's nice when nice people are being nice.
It is.
The world needs more of that. I like to scroll and see nice people talking nicely to each other and being nice. So
yes.
Obviously,
autism is not a mental health disorder, and we don't want it to be confused that because Abi is here in a mental health space that she's saying that autism is a mental health problem, because it's not. Would you say, is it like behavioural? Is it cognitive? What is it classed as?
I think they call cognitive. They use the word cognitive a lot when they diagnose you. They look at a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, I think it only relates to mental health, like we've sort of discussed in the video, in the reel and stuff like that, how the quality of life of the individual.
Because
that's
like
when it
you
comes
said,
into it.
Society is not set up for neurodivergence
at
all. Not one bit.
No.
So I suppose it's kind of it's a symptom of that, isn't it, to struggle because of the environment you're in. And I just wanted to know, like, obviously you don't have to get too deep, you can say whatever you want to say, but how has your autism affected your mental health? Like, do they link very closely? Like, have you found that there is a big a big issue there?
I think if mine hadn't touched my mental health, I wouldn't have needed to know, because I think other ways I get by okay. For me, it was a lot of frustration and confusion. And then when you're frustrated and confused, you get angry and you get sad, you know, and you get tired and fatigued. And then when you're tired and fatigued, you go into depressive state, and then you're, all of that. So lots of things happen. And I would say, like, the absolute root of it is like struggling to connect, be given the chance to connect, and then struggling to understand why you're not connecting. And it can be and I mean connecting in any way. I mean, like, connecting with people, connecting the dots, like in a conversation, like connecting yourself, like what your goal in life is and how to get there, connecting romantically, like things like that.
And in a
And
society
that just makes people sad.
That places such a weight on that sort of thing of, there's this unspoken timeline that people need to be on, that you go to school, you go to uni, you get a job, you're in a relationship, you get married, you have kids,
Ding,
done.
ding.
Check the boxes. And certain neurodivergencies, is that a word?
I like it though.
Don't lend themselves very well to that timeline. And I'm the same with my anxiety. That timeline's blown
Very
out
similar.
of the water. So I think I can see how it would be so frustrating and just could lead to so many mental health problems if you're wired in a way that doesn't lend itself to working or being in school or connecting with other people.
And also, like, a lot of mental health symptoms pop up when you have low self-esteem, and nothing's going to give you low self-esteem like feeling like the odd one out,
feeling different. No,
I always like I like that point you said about society right now, like the timeline, because that you can think of so many ways, like, where, like, someone, like, the way that autism presents could be so beautiful if it was just left alone. Like, if someone just wants to, like, be in a field all day and touch the grass, like, that should be okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, not to completely deconstruct society as it stands, but do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, because what we ask of each other, it's very, like, back to the root of humanity, which is to just, like, be happy and be content and stuff like that, and also care for each other. And, like, an autistic person can give the community something that it needs, and they can give something back, and that's okay. But instead, we only want one thing from people now, really. And because they don't do that, because they can't be quiet in a supermarket, which is an unnatural thing we've created, like, for mass consumption, they're not right. And it's like, but that shouldn't be there. They were there first. They were probably doing that first, like, in that bit, and it was okay, whatever.
I think
so
like,
the supermarket,
there's just a lack of patience, isn't there, for any difference. We don't want to give people the space or the accommodation to thrive. We have
in their own way,
rules, and you have to stick to them. And if you don't stick to them, then that's not our problem. But when you start speaking about maybe how you feel, how you cope, and people then set in those accommodations for you, like, magical things happen. Like, I can't think of what my life would have been like if my friends hadn't accommodated to my anxiety. If when at the peak of my anxiety,
and their life would have been worse off because they wouldn't have got the connection with you that they get to have, like,
when I wasn't going out and I wasn't able to socialize, my friends would come over to my house, no issue. Then we'd all get to hang out together. If they hadn't done that, and if they hadn't been patient and understanding and given me that grace to, if they hadn't understood what I was going through, and they hadn't given me that kind of permission to go through it and not to conform, then I think things would have been so different.
People get left behind, and
exactly. And then,
wait, can I just look? There's a guy. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm just going to Google something. Okay, so it's The Reason I Jump. I think we've talked about it before, but it's a book,
yeah.
and then it's been adapted. But it's by a young Japanese boy called Naoki. I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but he was nonverbal, and like in another life, maybe no one gave him the chance, but he happened, thank God, to be surrounded by people that like invested in him and just cared about his presence, like as a human, and like didn't want anything from him but to just know him better.
Yeah.
And so I think it was either a teacher or a family member. Sorry if I'm butchering like his name in the story, but it's just look it up yourself because it's The Reason I Jump is so beautiful. And because they built technology for him, which is what humans do anyway. They always innovate, so why not innovate for each other in that way? And they built technology that meant he could get thoughts out. So he could write, but he had never like spoken or said anything, so no one even knew what he was thinking about. And then he wrote a beautiful book which has like helped the community so much, because especially nonverbal people, because it's like there's a whole life in there, and even if it's someone who doesn't go on to write a book, like, you know, that's just one person, but it's like, imagine all the little worlds within these people that you just write off because they make funny noises, or they present differently, or they're unemployed, or they, you know, it's like, but that's just one person who's created that just because he was given the chance. So
I watched a Chris Packham documentary actually about, he is autistic, and he got together a group of other autistic people, and kind of through different mediums, so whether it be like animation or, you know, he made these little films with them about how their brain works and how they function in the world. And you know, there was like music and light and animation, and one of the people was nonverbal, and there was this kind of big thing where he was so adamant of people not thinking that he wasn't thinking.
Imagine how frustrating.
Exactly. And just because you can't communicate doesn't mean that your brain is not constantly ticking with things that you want to say. But I think people assume that because they're not coming out, that they're not there. Which is really,
it's like it makes me think there's like this whole universe of like untapped potential, but also just untapped connection. Like you shouldn't want someone to speak to you just to find out what they can give you and what they can become. Just knowing them can be enough. Like, and it's like all these people don't care to know. It's a shame.
So how does obviously I'm privy to it because I've got the inside scoop, but how does...
You are privy to any and all thought that goes this way. It goes in this ear, I send it to you, and then it comes out the other ear.
Truly. And I enjoy every second of it. But how does your autism present itself? I mean, you don't have to go into every, like, you know, because it might take a long time, you know, the same as anyone else's, you know, like my anxiety. I wouldn't sit here and list everything that happens, but what would you say is like, if you had to describe it to someone, like, how does it manifest in you and your life? Like, what are your, I guess, symptoms, but that seems reductive to say.
Oh, that's a good question. I never thought about. It's hard because it's like anything about yourself. You want to ask other people instead, because you kind of trust their observation more. Well, people who know me well and stuff like that. I think most of the stuff I read that I'm like, oh yeah, is like stuff about executive function. And stuff like that. That's probably my one. I would say there's lots of like things I enjoy and like my special interests, like, you know, about that. And like I get so with like media and the things I read and write and like look at that I could like live on that. Like I could literally be in a room, and I have been like for like days.
Not sleeping, by the way.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Not sleeping, not eating, no bathroom breaks.
That's so it's like that. Actually, maybe let's say that, because that's the perfect example. When I come out of 3 days, like, and I'm like, Ella, I haven't had
done something bad.
I've just woken up from like, so you can go into just like a state of like, it's kind of like mania or euphoria, and it can be very creative, but it's just like furrowing into like this interest that you have.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good thing about it, because that's just really fun, and like I wouldn't give it up for anything. But also the flip side of that is the executive function. So my executive function, that's a good example of when it's at like 0, because I'm like not moving. I forget to sleep, forget to go to the loo, forget to eat, forget to drink water, everything. And then also a big thing for me is like, if I do a big old thing, like if I have a big day at work or a big life event, or I go to something, I think I could get on pretty well at the time, but I would call it like a hangover. I get like a massive rebound from that. And I went on holiday with Ind recently, and when I got back from that, loved it, great holiday, wouldn't not go on the holiday. But when I came back, it took me a week to like move things around, unpack, like do grocery shop, things like that again. So I was like getting by, like I'm always like getting by, like by the skin of my teeth and stuff, but it's like sometimes I'm very low on like, and it's not just like the energy to do it, it's like the math isn't mathing. So like the meals I put together, I can't cook and stuff like that. It's like, because I can't visualize how it all works together, and like, and I don't really understand like nutrition very well, and like, just stuff like that. And like conversations get harder. Like I don't really see where anyone's going with anything. Like I'm happy to be there, but I'm like really like not confident that I can contribute anything. So I will go quieter, and also not have as much like energy. I'll just feel a bit out of it. I'll just feel a bit like out of step and stuff. So that's, I guess, the moany, like not bit negative part of it. But yeah, there is good and bad.
Definitely.
Like
and I think that kind of segues interestingly into masking, because, and I know it's apparently autistic girls will mask more, because I suppose there's an expectation for girls to
manners.
have manners, to be social,
Very demure, very cutesy,
very
some would
demure,
say.
very mindful. But, and I think when I look at you in social situations, you would never know what your brain is doing, because it is you masking, but you are very present. You seem very present. You seem like you have so much input. You seem very put together. So, and then it's understandable why you would need that recovery time, because
it's just a shame that it takes so long, like to charge up again after that. Or when I crash, I'll Irish exit or like leave or something like that.
For sure.
I was going to say something, but I forgot. Also with masking, I guess this is like a mental health thing, like we've said before. Masking is all like fun and games until you do it wrong or you mess up. And one big thing that I have to work on, because this is what I tell you, it's always what I come back to, is that like feeling caught, like feeling like you're somewhere you shouldn't be, and that the mask has slipped and everyone's looking, and it's like everyone knows now, and you're like scrambling to like recover from it and stuff. So I will feel it all the time. I operate on the like assumption that I'm getting away with something,
like
because if they
almost
kind of that's a good way. It's like, so if I don't get the joke, which happens a lot, and it will happen more when I'm tired and I'm like, I've come back for something, don't get the joke, I kind of kill a conversation, or like misstep, or like do something rude that is really rude, like afterwards, like, you know, or snap or whatever, or, you know, get my temper comes up and stuff like that. I really beat myself up about it, because I was actively trying not to. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, we do all make mistakes, and that's why you should give yourself grace and stuff like that. But it's like, that's all I'm trying to do all the time. So it's like, that was my one job, man. Like I messed up my one job. Like,
because I know we both watch Heartbreak High, and in the last season there is a moment where the autistic character Quinny stopped
Yeah.
masking.
Yeah.
And it comes
They don't
off,
like it.
yeah, everyone is kind of thinking she's rude, thinking she's changed, she's different, but
Yeah.
really she's just not pretending. And I guess maybe that's not the right word, because you're not pretending to be
I
polite.
think there is pretend. I think that's fair to say. I think there's like
Okay.
pretense in it, or you're pretending that it's easier than it is at the very
Right.
least. I
Yeah.
would say.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and it must just be exhausting to have that much going on in your brain at one time, because I know that it's the same as me trying not to look anxious. I remember I think I had said to you once that I was anxious when I was out, and India had taken a video of me in a coffee shop.
Oh.
Sent it back to me and was like, "You look like you're panicking." I was like, "Yeah, I probably was." I was like, sipping my coffee, and I was like, staring into
Yeah,
a corner.
and like the video of you getting your tattoo as well. It's like
Yeah.
it's not the normal, like you're not in that room.
No,
Like
I'm somewhere else. Yeah, completely.
you're not like, oh, I'm a bit nervous, guys. You're
Yeah.
like,
And then she asks me a question, and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm back. Hi, yeah, perfect,
hi,
lovely."
yeah,
Yeah, so I
literally.
get that kind of like that being somewhere else and having to like really try hard to like be in that room. And then
Yeah.
it's the same with me in the days after, and we've spoken about this before as well, like
Mm-hmm.
the days after socializing. Like I went out for coffee this morning with Bestie India, and I know now
She's
that
getting too much
I know,
airtime in
little
this
bit
episode.
to mention. We don't
She's
have to
feeling
bring her on.
smug. I know it.
But I know tonight I'm going to be absolutely exhausted,
Mm-hmm.
just from, because your body is doing so much as well. Like there's so many chemicals
Oh yeah,
around, and you're,
tired.
like
Yeah,
tense, and you're trying so hard. So yeah, it is difficult.
and trying not to do like this is what I do all the time. This is my like little stimmy thing. Sometimes I'll be trying not to do that and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's like
It's just it's a whole mental,
yeah.
physical, everything.
But I two very good. They're so generic, and everyone should think this because everyone masks to an extent,
Yeah.
and for different reasons. But I would say sometimes I can snap myself, or I can get more present by reminding myself that I'm losing something by being less present. I'm losing like this time with people, especially when it's people I'm comfortable with, and that I can like not really mask with, and stuff like that. And also, I love the thing of not assuming the worst of people. So my big thing when I'm beating myself up, like, oh, you slipped up there, like they're going to tell that you're a little bit different, like you're a little bit wonky, you didn't get the joke, whatever. It's like, but why aren't they nice? Like, why should they take it out on you? Why should they think differently of you? So just assume the best of people, and that can help as well.
I think there's an introspection in that as well, of how you would react if someone did what you did. And it's likely that you wouldn't even notice.
I'd probably like them more.
Yeah. Or you either wouldn't notice, or it would be really endearing, or it just wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be an event. So I think that, that's really helpful. So what do you then think is kind of, in your experience, the biggest misconception that people have about people with autism?
Or that they that we're not emotional.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or like lack empathy.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. I know. Yeah.
Big one. And actually, it's so emotional. Like it's so emotional, and I almost feel like they're more likely to. Most people are like a live wire, and they're so emotional. Everything is so much all the time, physically overwhelming, obviously if there's sensory issues and stuff like that, and then emotional on top of it, that if they kind of are presenting as a little bit cold and locked away, it's like the old stereotype, like, oh, it's like they're an iceberg, but they're melting underneath. Like there's so much emotion there that probably is too much to manage, so they've locked it away. Like they're not engaging in that way because it hurts so much, like, and there's so much at stake emotionally, like, and maybe it's better to be more reserved and never try and lose than try very, very hard and get it wrong and feel like you lost and it didn't work. You know what I mean? Which would be the most emotionally devastating thing.
Yeah.
And it happens.
I think media has a lot to do with that as well, because
Mm-hmm.
you get these kind of depictions of autism that are very
like the Big Bang Theory Sherlockification of it, and it's like this one.
Yeah, firstly, they're all men, for one. Yeah. And secondly,
he's
running...
tall, he's white, he's smart, he's autism.
Yeah.
It's like,
and he has no friends, and and it's so...
He's got no friends. He's got a rocket on his t-shirt. Like, literally, it's like, he loves science.
And that is autism. Done. Yeah. But yeah, I guess there is that kind of like, that misconception of like, monotone voice, like can't connect, doesn't feel anything, will just be rude to be rude, and doesn't get it and isn't in on the joke. But really it's kind of the opposite of that. There's so much emotion that it kind of doesn't have a pathway in the way that you would expect, or the way that someone who is neurotypical would expect.
I always feel like what happened there was there's many autistic people who are like that. Some guy met one of them and was like, oh, I found him. And then like they wrote that guy autism forever, but there was like 5 other, like his sister. Like, do you know what I mean? Like no one. And actually a thought came to my head, we need to check this, because I haven't actually watched it, like apart from like clips and stuff, but I swear the little I do know, I think the girls in the Big Bang Theory are probably resonate more with me as autistic, and they're very earnest and loud. And even Penny, do you know what I mean? Like they're very earnest, and that might not be her name. They're very earnest and loud. I just thought of this now, but like, and like giggly and love what they love, and like to an extent what they'll like interrupt and like just unabashedly like everything too much. That's very prevalent in autistic girls.
It's like hidden representation. It's like, we're not going to call
accidental
this girl, we're not going to call this girl autistic, but hello,
she's giving.
So what, I know you kind of touched on it before, what is your favorite thing about being autistic? Because we don't want this to be a conversation where people are worried to get a diagnosis because they think that it's all bad and there's no redeeming, anything. Obviously it's difficult.
There's a lot of shame with it,
like anything, and of course, but what is something that it has given you that you think, I just love that about myself and I wouldn't have it if I didn't have autism?
I do think it is special interests, even though, not to repeat my like self so much, but I just think I'm very fascinated by them in themselves, and everyone's different one. And there's something really quite wonderful that can happen, and it happens when I speak to other neurodivergent friends, or just other very like well-aligned friends and like understanding friends of me. But like the best thing that can happen is when 2 people cut all the bit of the conversation out that they feel that they must adhere to. So like the small talk, which I'm not very good at, and like stuff like that. And just the bits that you kind of do for a little bit, for like 20 minutes before you actually say what you wanted to say to them. They like don't do that, and they sit across that table from each other and they go, hey, I really like this and I want to tell you about it because I love you and I love it. And imagine if you were like, if you knew about it and you liked it as well, because that would be even better. And stuff like that. And they're trying to bring you into it. You'll never feel it like they do, but we'll still try. And then the other person goes, here's mine. And then they just do that at each other. But it's like, it's not talking at each other, which is what it looks like. It's like real, like really showing someone something like that really matters to you. And so I think those neurodivergent like conversations are very special, and I like to see that. I like to do it. I like to see it.
And I think what you do with your special interests as well, because I don't know if I'm exposing you right now, but Abi is a bit of a whiz with an edit. And just, I think the way your brain works, I am just always so in awe of the creativity and the pattern recognition, which we've been talking about recently as well, is the way that you've done it for me before, where I've said, I really love this film, and you will put together something with music and in a way that pertains to me, or and I think just the way your brain works is...
This is what I love about you. Like, one of the many things, you just like will meet people where they are, and like you will speak in everyone's love language, and like that is such a nice like quality you have.
Yeah.
So Ella will literally be like, we never go like, how are you? She'll be like, if I saw this mini-series and you saw it, would you like to make me a 1-minute video? And I would like, yes, like make a video. And we're like, ooh, like about it together and stuff. It's like,
Literally, yeah, I
and
think
there's nothing actually about ourselves, but it is about us, because like I understand the things that you like watching. I really read that like I'm reading you, because that's how I feel about stuff. So
yeah. And I think, me and Abby probably started a conversation 4 years ago and haven't said hello or goodbye since. Like, it's just been us like little parrots at each other. Like, I like this.
I like this.
This is what I've eaten today.
Yeah.
Which I love. And I think
a picture of a plant, and then I'm like, I just woke up and it's 2 p.m. I edited till 3 a.m. last night.
Yeah. But I think that it's a very good thing to love about your diagnosis, is it's something that it brings this to you and it helps you connect, because maybe in a social sense you might not think that you have that ability to connect in the way that other people do, but you do connect in a very real and earnest way through other channels, which is so important. And I think that's where like the patience and the grace comes in, because I know that is your love language. I know that when you send me things, that's you saying you're special to me, and I'm obsessed with you,
and I trust you.
I trust you to understand me and to not make fun of me, and I think that shamefully and is a thing with a lot of autistic people, is that special interest being made fun of.
I
think if someone comes to you, it's such a raw and vulnerable place to be in, for someone to come to you with a special interest and say, look, here's what I love, and I'm sharing this with you because you are a special person to me. Maybe just receive that as the gift it is. Maybe.
Like penguins with pebbles.
Exactly. It is so penguins with pebbles. And I love it. And I think that is something that we do very well with each other, is like you said, I meet you where you are and you meet me where I am. And there is never any misunderstanding or, well, you've said that and it could mean that. We just say what it is. And
everything.
And everything that's on our brains.
All time.
All the time. At any time. So what, I guess, to kind of close this out before we give our recommendations, what would be your one or couple pieces of advice to other people on the spectrum who maybe are struggling or maybe just need a like-minded person, a relatable person to just say, here's what I've learned and this is what I can give to you?
I think it's very cheesy, but just self-acceptance. Like, you're not going to get anywhere with anyone else. You have to believe in yourself and believe that you deserve to be in the room. You deserve to take up space. You deserve like friends like Ella that like talk to you about what you want to talk about in the way to talk about and understand why you want to talk about it. So just things like that. Like, you just try and carve out the space if you can, like for yourself, and don't apologize for doing that. I actually had dinner with a friend yesterday and she said something really sweet. She was like, it was about like someone she knew from like college or a job or something like that, and she was like, they don't make me feel good, so I don't socialize with them outside of work, and there's like an expectation to that's a very socially like thing. So this is an example where like a neurodivergent person could be like, but I don't want to do it like that. And that's okay. I'm not causing anyone harm. It's not hurting anyone. I don't want to do that. And in another life, if they weren't giving themselves grace, they might have like jumped through a million little hoops, right? You might jump through like a million little hoops every day for everyone else. And it's always important to like be respectful of other people and like not be rude or harmful to them, but also look after yourself, because like, and try and learn what hoops are worth jumping through and what aren't. You know, because you're just going to exhaust yourself. And it's not worth going to the dinner or like asking about the weather at the right time of the morning with someone if you doing that all the time is going to just cause you to go downhill and your mental health to struggle, because your mental health is your biggest asset.
Yeah.
I think there's something in there.
I think, yeah, off the back of that, I watch, and I've spoken to you about this before, I watch a series called Astrid, Murder in Paris, and it is a crime drama, but the crux of it
You love
is that,
those.
yeah, I do. There is a neurotypical detective and there is an autistic detective. She's a detective now. And she goes to a support group for other people with autism, and everyone has their own niches and their own, and the leader of that group gave her 10 pebbles and said, every time that you exhaust yourself, hold them in one hand. Every time you exhaust yourself, put one in the other hand. And keep doing that all throughout the day, and then you'll see that you've got no pebbles left.
Yeah.
You've exhausted yourself. You've stripped yourself of everything that is you. You've tried to conform and you've lost something. And you need to then do what you can to put those pebbles back. So I think, I get what you're saying.
That's so good. I love that.
Like, carve out that space, like you said. Like, there is nothing to be ashamed of in being who you are.
Yeah.
Your interests are valid and your emotions are valid and the way you express yourself is valid, and you will, trust me, find like-minded people that will completely understand you. And this is that's why the internet is such a lovely space for things like that, because for its faults, there is always going to be a community that you will find yourself feeling entrenched in and feeling accepted in, which I think is really important for people that aren't on the same path as other people or don't express themselves the way that other people do. Yeah.
It's very much like, if you feel like you got something wrong in a conversation that day, it's okay. You're okay. Go and have another one, or have no more. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you'll be alright.
Yeah. I think that is a good place to bring to our recommendation portion. I actually haven't thought about mine, so
I have, but it's on my phone again. I've got to look at my phone.
Okay, go. Maybe while you're finding it, I actually am going to recommend Bunny by Mona Awad. Not mental health related. Well, kind of not mental health related, but I read it last year and it was my 5-star book of the year. It's probably one of the best books I've ever read. And now my
love your book
is
account.
reading it because I gave it to her. And she keeps coming to me and being like, I think she's having a meltdown. I think she's having a breakdown. I don't know if anything's real. And I'm like, yes, exactly. So if that sounds like your kind of book, then that is my recommendation.
It does?
Wait.
I'm going to have to find mine. Hang on.
Go for it.
I'm just Googling lyrics in that way.
Those are my favourite kind of books, though. Like, when you finish it and you're like, I don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
I don't know what was real. I don't know who I am. I don't know what day it is. And apparently I like to inflict that on my mother, because I do that quite often. I'll read a book that kind of changes me as a human and or traumatizes me, and I'm like, Mom,
Mommy,
Mummy, please join me in this.
Oh, okay. I can't find the one thing, but definitely Quinny from Heartbreak High is a very good, easy gateway character.
Yeah.
And they're doing, I think the way they're writing her is really interesting and different and good. Also, not explicitly a autistic resource or autistic character, but my favorite book in the world is My Name is Nina. And it's by David Almond, I think his name is, and he wrote Skellig as well, and Nina's a side character in Skellig. And she's the weird little girl next door in Skellig. And then I think this is a good encapsulation of what we've tried to encourage here. Is David then wrote a sequel where he went, hey, what if the weird little girl next door, that archetype character, had all of this going on in her head, and he just goes into Mina. There's no point to the story just to know Mina better. And it's written very imaginatively. There's whole pages where she's saying the same thing. There's pages where she's got nothing to say, so it's blank.
Wow.
She's up trees, she's running around in the fields, she doesn't conform in any way. And it's a very beautiful portrait of someone who doesn't have any friends. And isn't she's canonically not accepted in the in the other book, and I just think it's a nice twist on that. the author went, hang on, I like her, and I think you would like her. So
Let's
how about
celebrate.
sit with her for a bit and read? And I think there's a lot of people like her, and I relate to her. So it could be a good way to get to know that type of person better.
That sounds really lovely. Yeah, so I think we've covered a lot of really great points. I just want to thank you so much for not only being here today, but also for creating that reel for us, because we've had some really lovely comments, and I know that a lot of your friends have been really receptive to it, and like a lot of our circle of friends have been really loving it. And I think it's something that's not spoken about so much. It's more so represented fictionally. Maybe a lot of people haven't met someone with autism or don't really know what it's about. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much, because I think that I think this will reach a lot of people that it will be really helpful for. And I feel really lucky to know you and to be educated by you. And I feel really
I'm touching your face on the screen.
I feel really great that you trust me with these things, and that like you're so open with me.
It's very easy to.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is show that there is connection if you're willing to search for it, and you'll find people that get you. And that's kind of all we want to do. So yeah,
I love you.
I love you. If there's anyone listening that would love to share a story with us as well, we want to do so many more podcast episodes. I know that a lot of us have people lined up that we want to ask questions to and just pick their brains. So if anyone wants to come and be a part of this, just DM us on Instagram, or comment, or just get in touch. But yeah, thank you so much, Abby.
Would recommend. They're very nice people, and it's fun.
We're very easy to talk to.
It's fun.
I promise. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Abby. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you. See you on our text later.
Yes, yeah, when we're both freaking out about something. Bye.